All right, I'm just gonna take a stab at this. You know, I want to talk to you all today about a subject that um, it could be considered controversial, and a lot of people probably won't talk about this because it's controversial. And so I want to speak about this from a place, a place of my expertise as far as what I've experienced. I'm not saying I have all the answers to this, but I think it's something that needs to be discussed and talked about because I often see it come through my practice. And so we're just going to get into it. We're just going to get into it. And I just want to apologize ahead if someone might be offended by what I'm stating because it's not intended to offend anyone. Um, I think that if someone is offended by this, it's probably, unfortunately, because you may have experienced this and not had it properly worked out. So I'm going to try to be as compassionate as I can because we want support and help. So let me move through this because the time moves fast. So this is the question. Is it okay at any time to withhold sex from my spouse? Is it okay? For any reason. And this is the thing. We're not talking about situations to where there has been an illness to where my body is just, we know that you're sick. And then we're withholding. We're talking about situations to where there has been some level of conflict. We're both healthy and it has been determined that I no longer am going to have sex with you. It may not just be that I'm not going to have sex with you, but it may be, that I hold back for a week or two or three or months, even years I've had in session. And so I decide that I'm going to hold back, or just whatever your frequency is. If you do it once or twice a day, maybe we're just doing it a couple times a week. But there has been a significant change. And the reason for the change is that I'm feeling like that you don't make me feel safe when I'm having sex with you. That's one, right? Or I feel like, that when I'm having sex with you, that it's like I feel like I'm being emotionally abused. I don't feel comfortable because of whatever is going on in our relationship. And another one is that it just feels like trauma. It feels like when I was raped or abused, and that's what it feels like to me now having sex with you, considering what is going on. And typically what I do find is that this occurs many times when there has been tension in the relationship. Okay. What I do find is that this is actually a symptom of a deeper problem. In other words, it's the tip of the iceberg. What I'm seeing, what the complaints are, what's going on is that there have been things going on in the marriage that needed to be corrected that haven't been corrected. And it's because, for instance, it may be a wife that, and I'll be honest, typically this it happens with both sexes, but more men having this concern with their wives. But let's just say that we get into a disagreement, and so based on that disagreement, it's decided that this happens. And so what I want to say is that there is a very thin line between retaliation, okay, and pain as a result of trauma. Okay, it's a very thin line between retaliation in a relationship and pain as a result of trauma. In other words, I'm feeling pain internally, emotionally, as a result of having sex with you, due to my trauma. It's just not working for me. I think that I can't continue. And so this is should be respected, and it could occur. But my suggestion is that given that there's a very murky line with this, I'm suggesting that if there is a pain due to trauma, if you're experiencing pain due to trauma, okay, and so because of my trauma, I don't feel like I can have sex with you. I'm feeling abused having sex with you based on the way that things are going on now. What my suggestion is that individual needs to get individual counseling relative to that concern, okay, because there's a deeper issue going on here, and this mechanism is not going to be the number one mechanism to resolve that problem. As a matter of fact, when couples come in with this issue, I see it as an indicator that there is a very significant issue in the marriage. Like we may be on the brink of divorce. As a matter of fact, I have seen a strong correlation with the absence, especially more distant absence of sex. I have seen a correlation with that and divorce. So this is a critical situation to look into. It's not a lightweight situation. And to be honest, I just have never seen it work. I've never seen this intervention work it out. Never. As a matter of fact, I've seen it very often and frequently end with divorce. And so when we're talking about counseling, it doesn't just need to be the individual who may have the trauma that may need to get counseling. It may need to be a couples counseling. But if what's happening to me is causing me to feel like trauma relative to what that person is doing, I'm saying that I believe one-on-one counseling should definitely with the person who is experiencing that, because there's some things that still need to be resolved. Another thing, y'all, is this. Okay, so if you're still with me at this point, I may lose you a little bit because I'm gonna throw some Bible here, and the kind of people sometimes get upset with that, but I'm gonna be neutral, right? There's a text that I want to bring up, and I'm gonna break this down, and it's in 1 Corinthians, because everybody's not a believer, and I counsel individuals who are atheists, we counsel individuals who are atheists, who we are Christian based, but they're atheists in the witchcraft, other denominations. And the way that we handle the counseling is not like how I'm talking about it now. So when you come in, it's going to be very different, because we want to be respectful of others' beliefs. But since I've got the mic, I do want to mention a text here that I think that is relative. Do not deprive, 1 Corinthians 7:5, do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent. All right. And for mutual consent for a time, not forever. Right. So that this is reason why, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. So this is a prayer issue. Okay, this is something that we don't want to get things mixed up. Then come together again. So why? Come together again after you prayed, after you stop having sex. Come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And so what I find is that this is very relevant in the counseling that I provide, is that what happens if I say I'm not giving it up? This is what happens often when someone decides I'm not giving it up. You ain't getting it. Okay. And this is the reason why, for me, when I got my counseling, after we got our premarital counseling from Elder Kelly, which I prescribe is premarital counseling, is that my wife and I had a marriage contract. So in the contract, and I think she had it in there too, we had discussed, and it was on there, that we would not withhold from each other. Okay. We just discussed that was on the table. So we've never experienced that like that, right? So it's good that we have an understanding before we get married. But if we're already married, what happens is, if I'm not giving it up, what does that cause me? That may cause me to get upset. That might cause me to feel rejected. I may start to feel disrespected. And this is another thing, is that many times when we're in a crisis situation, because this is crisis, we create new maladaptive behaviors or revert to old ones. Okay, so if I was a pimp in the streets or whatever, there's a probability that this being a crisis situation, as it says, because you lack self-control, that means you might want to step out. So this is why it's saying that we should not go this route. Okay. And this is what I see that frequently happens, whether it's the man or the woman. I start wanting to retaliate because you're saying no. And then what happens? I say, well, you know what? Somebody else might want me. And then now you're challenging me. And it's like, well, who cares if they do? You do what you got to do. Oh, so now that's another dare. That's a challenge. And next thing you know, we've got a situation that we can't resolve. And we end up in separation. So we want to be careful about that. I just want everybody to be mindful that this is a symptom of a deeper problem. Okay? If I'm feeling that I have to draw the nuclear option, and this is the thing, I have never seen that this intervention works out. Because even if it worked out for a short time, usually if I feel something that works out, it's going to be used against the person in the future. Okay, so now that's dangling above the relationship unnecessarily in a bad way, and it doesn't become a functional tool. Usually there's some issues with communication. Maybe that man or woman is not paying attention to their spouse in the way that they need emotionally, and they're looking at this as a last-ditch effort just to get their attention. So there's other concerns going on, but this can lead to something that we don't want to have to deal with in our relationship. So I hope that this has been helpful. We have clinicians on hand that deal with these concerns if you need it. Aspire Counseling and Consulting Services is there to help you. I hope this has been helpful. You have a blessed day.